I know the Senate's been dealing with a difficult issue, and I want to make some comments relative to the senator from Kentucky, Senator Bunning, who I think has taken a lot of unfair criticism for asking our Democrat colleagues to abide by their own rules. Much has been made here in the Senate and the Congress and the White House over the last year about the unsustainable level of spending and borrowing and debt that we have as a nation. Yet it seems that almost every week we create some new government program or expand spending in some area. And I think it's time that we expose the hypocrisy that is going on here, because we know that the level of debt we've got is going to eventually, sooner or later, bring our country down. Yet we don't seem to have the willpower to stop any spending. Last week we created a new government program, a new travel promotion agency. And now we are going to extend unemployment and COBRA benefits, which are a good thing. And certainly in a down economy, we need to consider those who are suffering around the country and make sure we do everything we can that's fair to take care of them. But when we borrow the money to do it, we threaten the futures of our children and grandchildren, diminish their quality of life, and likely cause their unemployment in the future. So we can hardly pat ourselves on the back for our compassion and generosity when we're really not making any sacrifices or even any hard decisions here in the Senate to pay for those things that we say are a priority. Instead of paying for this extension of unemployment benefits and COBRA, the Democrats just want to pass it without any debate, without any vote, and they don't want to pay for it. We're not even considering ways that we can pay for this extension. Instead, we classify it as emergency spending at the last minute and try to force Congress into spending money we don't have. Brought it up at the very last minute at the end of last week and said if we don't pass it now by unanimous consent, that people will go without their unemployment and their COBRA. This is not emergency spending. It was entirely predictable when these funds would run out, when existing funds would run out, and instead of acting prudently to extend these benefits in ways that we could pay for them, the way my Democrat colleagues had promised we would with this pay-go rule, they're declaring an emergency at the last minute to ram it through without any debate, without a vote. Moreover, they want to do this anonymously through the process that we call unanimous consent. That means they don't want a roll call vote. Why don't they want a roll call vote? Because it shows who means what they say. It shows who really believes in this idea of pay as we go that we call pay-go. And it would certainly damage prospects for November election. Senator Bunning from Kentucky has taken a courageous stand to hold the Democrats, in fact all of us, accountable to the things that we say we believe. I, like Senator Bunning, believe if we're going to renew these benefits, we should pay for them. We should look at areas of our government that we don't have to do and reduce them or eliminate them so that we can pay for the things that we feel like we have to do. And I think the names of the senators who want to borrow the money to do this, who want to add to our debt to do this, the names of those senators should be recorded for the public to see. This bill will cost $10 billion. We could find the money to pay for this bill. We could repeal a very small part of the stimulus plan. We could repeal the TARP or the bailout money. We could cut some earmarks, some local parochial projects, or we could cut other government programs that have been deemed unnecessary or wasteful. The Congressional Budget Office says the government would save $12 billion if we just allowed health insurance companies to compete in an interstate commerce fashion. We've talked about it a lot as part of the health care debate. If all we did, no taxpayer funds at all, allowed interstate competition for health insurance, the government could save $12 billion and more than pay for this bill that we're talking about here today. We could help people get insured, lower the cost of health insurance, help small businesses create jobs, and pay for the bill that extends unemployment benefits. But we're not even willing to talk about a responsible way to pay for a bill. And yet when Senator Bunning says, wait a minute, we've been talking about paying for these things as we go, and the first two bills that we've brought up since we passed PAYGO have not been paid for. So he said, at least let's bring it to the floor and have some debate and a vote. I think that's pretty reasonable. Senator Bunning was right to address this problem, and I commend him for it. And I hope our colleagues will stop the hypocrisy, to stop trying to create a crisis of our debt while every day we make that crisis worse. And adding to the debt almost every week. Now we've got members of this body looking at new ways to raise taxes or to create new taxes on Americans. This is not the way to help our country. It's not the way to lead. And it certainly is hypocrisy. So I thank Senator Bunning for his stand. And I would ask all my colleagues to join us in looking at what this federal government has to do, and to do those things well, to fund them properly, but to take those things that don't have to be done at the federal level and move them to the states or back to the people, as the 10th Amendment says. We clearly cannot move forward as a nation with the federal government doing more than it's doing today. If we're going to survive, if we're going to thrive as a nation in the future, the federal government will have to do less. That needs to begin here. It needs to start today. We can't keep expanding government, borrowing money every week, and complaining about the debt. Only in politics would that happen, and we've got to stop it here this week. So again, I want to thank Senator Bunning for his courage and clarity, and I yield back.